computer. All right, I did warn people that if you would rather not be recorded, it's okay to mute, to turn your camera off, and it's fine. Okay, so just a few housekeeping things. Again, the program is recorded. I ask that you please mute. We're all Zoom veterans now. We know to mute and unmute ourselves when needed, to keep sounds from distracting, background noises from distracting our speakers. And we are asking you to put questions for each speaker in the chat as we go along. And we'll do our best if there's enough time to get to the questions after all the speakers are finished. My name is Christina Ajemian, and Catherine Honey and I are co-presidents of AAUW Massachusetts, the American Association of University Women in Massachusetts. On behalf of our members and our collaborators, we welcome you to our program, Leadership in 2023 and beyond. Just a few words about AAUW. The American Association of University Women was founded in 1881 in Boston by Marion Talbot and Ellen Swallow Richards, both graduates of MIT, a rare breed, in 1881. AAUW works to advance equity for women and girls through advocacy, education, and research. And we are very proud of the fact that over the years, AAUW has awarded over $115 million in fellowships and grants to American and international scholars. For there to be positive change, girls must be confident that their voices are heard in all areas of society. AAUW has been a place where women learn confidence from the support of other women, leadership from the example of other women, and independent thinking from dialogue with other women. So why STEM? A focus of our program today is on the importance of STEM. STEM, of course, refers to science, technology, engineering, and math. The world we live in today requires a working knowledge of technology. To fill high-paying jobs and even some low-paying jobs, women and girls would need to develop, at a minimum, some familiarity with STEM. Today's speakers, and we have a wonderful group of speakers, are supporting the STEM conferences for girls, grades 4 through 8, planned in Taunton and in Weymouth by AAUW members and our collaborators. They plan to attend, to observe, and to assist with registration, facilitate workshops, and be presenters. Our STEM conference planning committees include Bristol Community College, Massasoit Community College, the Southeastern Mass STEM Network, Bridgewater State University, Taunton Public Schools, Girls Inc. Boys and Girls Club, the Weymouth Public Schools, AAUW branches from the South Shore area and Taunton area. And that's quite a team of people working together to provide opportunities for girls through STEM. We welcome representatives of our partners and collaborators present today. If you are part of that list, you can give a little wave. I want to just see, okay, thanks. We invite you to be an observer at a STEM conference and hope that you will be inspired to offer a STEM event in your area. Come and witness the excitement and enthusiasm of the girls as they learn and make discoveries. Come and witness the dedication and professional pride of the presenters as they share their skills with the girls. For there to be positive change. Oh, I think I already read that. Yep, repeated myself here. Okay, no, didn't edit that. For we will never know how many lost Marie Curies, lost Rachel Carsons, or lost Mae Jemisons there have been for lack of role models for girls. So now I'm very pleased to introduce our speakers, starting with Christine Monska. Just a little bit of a background on Christine. Then I'm going to switch to speaker view. There we go. So, okay. Okay. I don't know why we have Catherine. I love to see you, Catherine, but that's okay. Let me just double check that I did it right. Speaker. All right. Well, we'll see. Okay, Christine has a bachelor's in government and international relations from Smith College and a master's in global affairs, international law, and human rights from the State University of New York. Christine serves on the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women, She's chair of the Girls Empowerment and Leadership Initiative called Jelly. And she's the executive director of the Women's Fund South Coast. Christine's focus will be girls, empowerment, and leadership. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you so much. Bear with me just a moment because I'm going to share my screen so I can start my slide deck here.
All right. Let me see if I can give you, let's see. There you are. Okay, wonderful.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. And thank you for the kind introduction. My name is Christine Monska. I'm the executive director of the Women's Fund South Coast. I'm secretary on the State Commission on the Status of Women, and as you heard, chair of our Girls Empowerment and Leadership Initiative. Thank you, AAUW, for the opportunity to speak with you about the power of investing in the leadership development of young women, girls, and gender-expansive youth in our state. If we don't invest in our nation's young people, particularly those with marginalized identities, then gender and racial equity will be so much harder to achieve. This issue is so important to me, in part because of my own leadership journey. I grew up in a Polish family with very stark gender roles. Girls were expected to be docile. Girls were expected to look pretty, to get married, produce the 2.5 children, and the white picket fence. They weren't expected to go to college. I wanted something very different for myself. I wanted to be economically independent and free to pursue whatever I set my mind to. I ended up being the first person in my family to go to college. I got a scholarship to attend Smith College, a women's college. And for the first time, I met women leaders teaching classes and serving as mentors. However, I seldom met a woman who had a similar upbringing in one of those leadership roles. As I continued to advance my education, my Master of Science degree, studying law and business, there were less and less people who were systematically pushed to the margins in my classes and in the position I aspired to fill one day. As I entered the workplace, I watched the gender and racial gaps continue to grow and manifest. What you can see on the slide here is a photo of me during internship at the Department of Justice, where I will tell you I worked with only one woman attorney on my floor. And there also is a graph here showing that women tend to need more education than men to attempt to bridge the gender pay gap. It is absolutely critical that we build strong and diverse pipelines of leaders that represent the rich diversity of our state, our nation, and our globe. We have to center people who are most impacted by racism and sexism at the very core of what we do and invest in their leadership trajectory and ensure that they get equal pay. I believe that that starts with girls. Again, particularly those with marginalized identities, so we can all look around at the tables that we sit at and see more young people, more diverse voices making decisions that affect them. When I joined boards and commissions, led a state senator's district office just in my early 20s, I was often the youngest in the room, usually by about at least 20 years. Mentors teaching me Robert's Rules of Order and leadership skills was critical to my success and still continues to be to this day. I made it my mission to lift as I climbed so I could look around the room and see more young people in leadership positions. I worked across Western Massachusetts, Greater Boston, and now I'm on the South Coast to develop leadership programs for women and gender-expansive youth. I designed and led the award-winning Young Women's Initiative, which is a leadership development and policy advocacy program for young women in Springfield. During that program, there was a 14-year-old leader who took the stage at a national conference right before Michelle Obama took the stage. And she told this large audience all about her leadership journey, the issues facing young women and girls in her community, and what she was planning to do about it. I also led the global and local Boston-based leadership programs in collaboration with the Clubhouse Network and MIT, infusing art, STEM, and advocacy. I brought young people to our nation's capital for a leadership summit where we facilitated a workshop at the National Mentoring Conference and talked to our legislators about the importance of investing in STEM education, especially for low-income communities and young people of color. I also taught at Bon Michael College in Holyoke, a free associate degree program for mothers impacted by parenting and poverty. I recently watched several alumni graduate from my alma mater, Smith College, and other bachelor degree programs, so many of them the very first in their families to achieve this milestone. It's initiatives like these that foster leadership in girls and show them that we are so much more than what society thinks we are. Girls are smart, girls are capable, girls are leaders. And that's the sentiment that led to the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women's statewide Girls Empowerment and Leadership Initiative, which we call JELLY. It took an initiative stemming from the South Coast that inspired commissioners to create this program. Our region organized a bus that brought young women and girls to the State House for Advocacy Day. Legislators got to listen to their youngest constituents about issues facing young women and girls in their community. They got to talk about legislation that matters to them. And this is really what all young women should be doing and know that they can. In our first year, we held listening sessions to hear from young women about important issues they face and ask how we can invest in their leadership and advocacy. In our second year, we held virtual sessions on leadership, women in STEM, and mental health. I'm so incredibly happy to share that a couple of weeks ago, we hosted our first ever in-person leadership event at Girls Inc. in Worcester, where about 100 girls came together from across the state for a day-long conference focusing on leadership, advocacy, economic empowerment, and pathways to run for office. This is gearing up participants to join us at the State House for MCSW's Advocacy Day on May 31st, and now we have a girls track. We're hoping to see them at our upcoming 25th anniversary on June 22nd, celebrating the MCSW's work to empower women and girls. Our region's Women's Alliance, YWCA, and the Women's Fund South Coast are collaborating to get young women and girls to the State House once again. We will invest in advocacy training and the fundamentals of finding your voice, which is actually the title of a session that I co-facilitated with two young leaders from New Bedford at our Jelly event, and you can see them pictured here. As I reflect on my own leadership journey, now as the Executive Director of the Women's Fund South Coast, and as one of your state commissioners, I'm committed to engaging all the young leaders who may battle systemic barriers and their own imposter syndrome, which still creeps up on me today. I work to ensure we have young women at each of the tables I now sit at. This is how women help each other get to the top and continue to create more equitable pipelines so there are more BIPOC, LGBTQIA+ identifying people, folks with disabilities, people with low incomes, and more, making decisions that affect them. I'm going to leave you with a quote from one of my favorite activists, Malala. She said, "One child, one teacher, one pen, and one book can change the world." Here's what you can do. Mentor young women and girls in your life, invest in their leadership development, engage them in advocacy, and ensure they have access to critical education so they too can be empowered to change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Congratulations on your work with Jelly and other programs. And I think it's wonderful that you're helping girls find their voice and express their ideas, especially among groups that are not used to that, not used to being listened to and to being taken seriously. I look forward to hearing more about it as time goes on, and that the day that you go to Boston, it might be, we'll see if it's something that we can support you in that and be present for that.
That would be great. I can follow up with more information.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Our next speaker is Courtney Henderson. Courtney's educational background includes a bachelor's in political science and Spanish, which, hooray, that's my major too, from Fisk University, and a master's in international relations from Harvard University. Courtney is the founder and CEO of Develop and Empower Consulting. She's the chair of the WIN Committee, the Women in NAACP in the Brockton branch. which is part of the Brockton area NAACP. She's an executive board member of that group as well. And she's an executive board member of the South Shore Alumni Chapter of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority. She's also on the board of League of Women Voters in Massachusetts. And Courtney is going to share some ideas on enhancing the leadership role of women. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much, everyone. I want to say thank you to Chris and Catherine and all of AAUW Taunton for inviting me to speak with you all today. It is such a privilege and honor to be presenting before you all and alongside some other phenomenal women here. I do not take that lightly. I did prepare a very short presentation, but it's not formal in any way. So feel free to, like Chris said in the housekeeping, to share anything in the chat, but I also welcome you all to blurt out as well. As Chris mentioned earlier, I do a lot of community work that supports the growth and success of young girls and women. Each organization that she listed in my bio is women-led, and it has a strong focus on the success of women and women issues. Even my business has an initiative to help get women elected into office, whether it be at a local, state, or federal level. So what I plan to talk to you all about today is what makes a strong leader and how we can encourage other women to take lead, and then a few opportunities within the WIN committee, and then highlight our wonderful, phenomenal women's awards that we have every year. So what makes a good leader? Feel free to put in the chat what you think makes a great leader. There's no wrong answers here. And if you feel like you want to blurt it out rather than type, I welcome that as well. Yes, integrity is big. Thank you, Dawn. Yes, listening. I say this all the time. We were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Awesome. Continue to keep sharing, but I know I have limited time, so I'm going to go ahead and go over just a quick few things that make for a good leader. So having diligence is one. I find that to be a very key leadership quality, and then being respectful not only of someone's time, but respectful of their background and experiences and the things that they can contribute to your group or organization, and showing gratitude. I was raised to know that I am owed nothing, and because of that, I always show my gratitude and show thankfulness for having such wonderful women to lead beside me. Though I am a leader, I don't consider myself to be the only leader in my group. I allow for others in my organization to shine. And I look out for their talents and their strengths, because we all know that we can't do everything, and a lot of hands make for light work. So allowing others to shine and allowing them to have spaces to take leadership positions, whether it be leading a workshop or planning a community event, anything like that is a way to allow others to shine. And I know someone mentioned listening in the chat, but knowing to listen. I know that I don't know everything. And so when I take some time to listen, you learn quite a bit from that. And then being supportive of what they do outside of the organization is really big. I think sometimes we get in a habit of only operating within the space that we know each other in, but we have an outside life outside of an organization. So showing up to because we're all busy women, I know this, we're probably involved in multiple organizations. So showing up at another person's event is another way of being a great leader. Being consistent and how you meet, being consistent in planning, being consistent in strategy is another way. We all have probably been in an organization or a job where things aren't consistent and you start losing faith in your leadership. and then being organized, and then having the willingness to learn. We are forever learners, and because of that, we should be open and receptive to new ideas. So all of that makes for a wonderful leader, but what I think is the most important is passing on that knowledge that you have acquired through your years of experience. There's enough success to go around for everyone, so there's no need to gatekeep information or to keep secrets on how to be successful. And by also doing that, you are preparing for the next leader. A lot of times, organizations fail because there wasn't a mentorship that was taking place prior to the transition. A lot of times we throw leaders into positions and they're not well prepared. They don't know the previous person's initiatives that well, or they may not have the game plan that was in place before they took that seat, and they don't feel confident that they can take on that torch because they weren't trained or properly prepared for their next steps. But the most important thing, I think, when it comes to mentoring is making sure that women continue to stay in these spaces and that they get to continue being leaders. When we don't mentor, or when we don't properly pass the torch to the next woman, we can fall into a trap where men will start to dominate these spaces. And this is not to talk negatively about men. We all need them, and they have contributed immensely in society. But if we want to make sure that we advance women leaders and we advance just the overall well-being of women, we need to make sure that we have women in these spaces and in these positions so that they can advocate for one another and to provide a safe space for other women to feel free to speak. So this is just very brief, a brief just level of importance that I want to put on mentoring. And I believe that at any age, you can still be a mentee. And by the way, I'm just going to do a shameless plug. I am looking for a mentor. So if anyone wants to take me on as a mentee, please, I am always willing to learn. So now I want to talk about the WIN committee, and I am so lucky and blessed to have Chris and Catherine on the committee. They have really helped propel WIN in a very positive way. But I want to take the time to kind of talk about WIN and what we do, because it all ties back into what I was discussing as women leaders. WIN stands for the Women in NAACP, and it is used to connect and advance and celebrate and support women. WIN seeks to enhance the leadership of women and serve as an advocacy vehicle for issues affecting women and children, and it advocates for the positive development of children. So some of the things that we do in WIN is that we allow for our members to take lead in putting on events. And we do not limit ourselves in the events that we put on. We do things around human trafficking. In the past, we've done scholarship programs for young girls graduating from high school. We've done a summer book club where we have had all of our books donated to all of our participants, and we would gather to discuss these books. And all of the books that we had were written by women. Those are just a few of the examples. Oh, we've also done something with FCR. And for those who don't know FCR, that's the Family, Community, and Resources, where we did a display of t-shirts representing all the victims of, survivors and victims of domestic violence. And these are just a few things that we have done. But the WIN committee also allows for women to host events that also highlight their skills and talents. If you have a skill that you are interested in sharing and teaching other women, you have the opportunity to create a workshop, and we're here to support that and bring the resources needed to put on a successful event. You also have the opportunity to network with other inspirational and successful women at the state level as well as the national level. You also have access to other trainings and workshops offered through the NAACP, and that's through our training portal, where you can take anything between how to properly budget the finances for any organization, all the way up to diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. And then you have the opportunity to attend the annual WIN Luncheon at the NAACP National Convention. And luckily, the convention is taking place here in Boston this year. It travels to a major city each year. And so you have the opportunity to attend that luncheon and meet other WIN committees across the nation. But what I think brings most attention to our committee is our annual Phenomenal Women Award. This was kicked off back in 2021. I'm sorry, yes, 2021, where we hosted our first annual Phenomenal Women Award. We highlighted 26 phenomenal women in the city of Brockton, and this is from all service fields. We strongly believe in giving people their flowers while we still can. A lot of times when we're at events, we're saying she was or she did rather than she is. We don't want to speak in past tense. We want to be able to acknowledge the women that have really made some great contributions to the city. This is from this past one that we had just back in March. And you can see we have our wonderful Catherine and Chris in this photo. We also want to use that opportunity to acknowledge that their dedication to serve to the community. And like I said, these are women that are educators, rocket scientists, those who provide transportation to those less fortunate, those who own businesses, and all in the city of Brockton. And I hope that one year we can pull the surrounding areas and include those in our recognition. So that's just a little bit of how the WIN committee ties into all of that leadership. And how we make sure that we create these spaces for women leaders to be developed. So we help women that are already leaders, and then we also help women that are looking to become leaders. I can't really see the chat when I present, so I'm going to stop sharing, but if there's anything that you all were not able to see or would like me to expand on, I'm happy to do that.
Well, thank you, Courtney. Catherine and I have been impressed with your leadership and have seen you be respectful and inclusive in your approach and calm. I think that's another good leadership characteristic, being calm. It was exciting to attend the Phenomenal Women Awards that day. And you're right, there were some really remarkable women who often don't get enough attention, and we certainly want that to happen while we can still give them flowers in life. Thank you. And the mentoring, I think that mentoring resonated with me. AUW members are lifelong learners. We're always learning, and the mentoring, and it resonated with me. Helping women come along and keeping that pathway going, that pipeline of leadership going, is very important. So if there's, and I think we'll get to your questions or comments in the chat a little later, if you don't mind. That's okay. Okay.
Absolutely, don't mind at all.
All right, thank you. Oops, I don't want to exit the screen. What did I do? I want to get back to the gallery and full view. All right. I'm sorry here, I'm trying to get back to the gallery. Here we are. All right, here we are. Okay. All right, wonderful. Our next speaker is our own Lynn Howard. Lynn is the STEM chair for AAUW-Mass. But I'll give you a little bit, as I did with the other speakers, a little bit about her education. She earned a bachelor's degree at Hobart and William Smith Colleges, and a master's of education at Wheelock. Lynn is, as I said, the STEM chair for AAUW Mass and has been an inspiration to us. She is also the AAUW South Shore Area Branch co-president and a past president of Delta Kappa Gamma International Society. She's a fourth grade teacher in Weymouth Public Schools. And she is a director at the Harvard Cooperative Society of Human Resources. So Lynn will talk to us about experiences that foster skills in girls to prepare them to be leaders. You're getting a theme here. Leaders.
Sorry.
Okay. All right.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here and see so many familiar faces from the AAUW branches, but also to see some new faces here. So I take a little bit different approach than our two first speakers, and I want to thank Christine and Courtney for sharing their leadership programs. I learned so much just in the last few minutes and want to find out more about all of your programs. But I'm taking a little bit different approach because I'm working with some younger students. I work with fourth grade students, as Chris said. And so back in 2014, I'll back up just a little bit because I wanted to just connect with Christine's intro, that I grew up in New York State and I didn't know what I wanted to be when I was 18 and heading off to college. I loved science and math, but really didn't know what was out there for me. My family business, as we say in my family, is education. And I did want to be a third grade teacher, but I also knew that there were other things out there, but I just didn't know what they were. So I went off to a liberal arts college, Hobart and William Smith. Similar to Christine's experience, it was a women's college connected with a men's college, it's coordinate college, but it gave me a chance to take on some leadership roles because we had student government for just the William Smith colleges. So that's where I started my leadership. And I think that's what kind of inspired me. But when I got done with college, I still didn't know what I really wanted to do. I moved to Boston and never went home after that, much to my parents' disappointment. But I fell in love with the Boston area, and as Chris said, I was the human resources director for the Harvard Cooperative Society after spending some years in retail management. But still, in the back of my mind, I just really wanted to do something different. And even though I was going back into the family business, I decided to go and become an educator because I wanted to give girls an opportunity to find out what was out there because I didn't know what it was. So that's where I kind of came into this with STEM and leadership and thinking about the girls need to be able to see themselves and learn more about STEM opportunities so they can get into these careers and have the skills to get into jobs where they can then become leaders. And then, as Courtney said, to connect with her leadership programs, to then be at the table and have a voice and help us, make some changes maybe, or, just see things from a different perspective, because we'll have not just men in leadership roles, but to have women in those leadership roles as well. So with that background, what I decided to do back in 2014, when I kind of was new to AAUW, wanted to find a way to bring STEM to AAUW because at the time my branch really hadn't been doing anything with it. So I came with this great idea. I had no idea what to do, but I wanted to do a STEM conference for girls in grades 4 through 8 so they could get an opportunity to learn about different careers and different things out there. So then about a year or so, or I guess with that idea, that's where I met up with Catherine and Chris and started conferences. So I'm going to share a presentation with a little bit of background about the STEM career that we started here in Weymouth that we're now going to replicate, or Chris and others are replicating. I'll be helping them out in Taunton on July 15th. And then after that, I'm going to have an ask for all of you. So let me share my presentation and just bear with me. And I apologize. I was at a meeting this morning, got home, I'm rushing around. My fire alarms for some reason are going off. I don't know why. So if they go off while I'm talking, I apologize. It's been a hectic day, but I'm here and let me just move things around so I can share my presentation with you. All right. Oops, I just need to get back to the beginning. Sorry. Like I said, it's been a crazy, crazy day. I was out in Springfield and then, like I said, just got home a little while ago with my smoke alarms going off. All righty. So can everybody see that now?
Yes.
Okay. So as I said, back in 2014, I started with this idea of having a STEM career or a STEM conference for girls and connecting it with AAUW. We have fellowships. And I have this quote here, that women who are in science should consider outreach activities to elementary schools and high schools. These students need role models. Girls cannot be what they cannot see. And that's from one of our fellows in 2007 and 2008. And I think that's kind of where I want to go with this. As did Christine and Courtney, that we need to be role models. We need to be mentors. And that's part of my ask for you today is that will you join the three of us and four, because I think Dawn's going to be talking about it similar as well, to be mentors. Even if you aren't a STEM professional, you have skills, you have your background, and you can help us to then help these girls see themselves in a career or get the skills that they might need. Some of the benefits for getting them involved with STEM, again, they can gain confidence and have the skills, be more comfortable working with computers and technology, develop problem-solving skills, enroll in STEM degrees, and then therefore they're going to have some better career opportunities. By getting them involved in STEM careers, they can then get into those positions and develop their leadership skills and become leaders in these careers. The STEM conferences themselves, again, starting with girls that are so young in fourth grade, they still don't know what they want either, and what they like and what they don't like. But research has shown that girls tend to shy away from the math and sciences still today in 2023. So we do still need to keep encouraging them to get involved in these skills and see the different career opportunities. So at the STEM conferences, we can provide them with some hands-on activities related to the STEM career, give them the opportunity to learn about the variety of careers, network and meet other girls with similar interests. In my district where I started the STEM conferences, we have 8 elementary schools, but we only have 2 or 3 grades of each. So they're not seeing other girls necessarily, but when they come to this conference, they now can be with girls from our 8 elementary schools and see, wow, there's other girls like me, and start to realize they might not be the only one that likes, building rockets and things. And then at our STEM conferences, I like to try to bring in high school students to lead some of the workshops, college students, women in the careers, so they see people of different ages, different backgrounds. And again, that idea of seeing themselves in STEM. So as I mentioned, I started conferences back in 2014, been doing it annually, either in the spring or the fall, depending upon what's going on with my scheduling and things in Weymouth. We've had about 60 girls per year, and even more. One year, I think we had as many as 90. With COVID, and since it's been a little bit harder, but we're building it back up again. Then in 2015, as I mentioned, I had hooked up with Catherine in the Southeast STEM Network. And with Catherine and others, we hosted a week-long conference at the Bridgewater State University, 24/7, well, 24/5, I shouldn't say 24/7. We were there for 5 days, and we were there overnight with 40 girls from other areas. Again, that opportunity to network, to see and meet people, to see women in different careers leading the workshops that we were having that week. It was a great opportunity, and I really enjoyed it, even though I didn't get much sleep. It was fun and exciting, and we had 5 girls from Weymouth there that we then tried to mentor and foster as after that. And then in 2016, I ran a week-long version in Weymouth for 20 middle school girls, just during the day, not with an overnight, something that I hope to be able to do again. My schedule just hasn't allowed it yet, but it's on my list of things to do again someday. So maybe some of you can help me with that. This is just an idea of, what we did, or what we do at the half-day conferences that I've been running, the one that started it all. We generally have probably 15 to 18 different workshops, depending upon what we get. The schedule for the half-day conferences start out with a registration, a keynote speaker, I'll tell you more about that, and some of our workshops. And we run 3 sessions, usually about 5 or 6 sessions, 5 or 6 workshops each time. Again, high school students, women in careers, STEM careers, college students. And then we just have a little bit of time in between, and then a wrap up. Some of the keynote speakers we've had over the years include Dr. Elizabeth Matskin, who actually was a graduate of the college that I went to, but she was much younger, but I found her in my alumni directory. So you never know where you'll meet women in STEM careers that you can help me recruit for workshop presenters. Yvonne Spicer, who many of you may know, she was the vice president of Museum of Science at the time when she was our speaker, then became the mayor of Framingham for a while. Pat Monteith, who is very involved in Brockton. Some of you may know her if you're from the Brockton area, from the Brockton Public Library. She came and spoke as a NASA Solar STEM ambassador. And then last year we had Lindsay Littlefield, who was who is a biology teacher, and she was phenomenal. She was also, I forget the title, Catherine can tell us later, Miss Massachusetts, I think, or something like that. She made a really nice, great connection of how she used STEM and her leadership skills and getting involved with that. Some of our workshop topics, we try to offer variety again, just so they can see different things that are out there they might not even be aware of. Some of these things are becoming more part of our school curriculums now, but it's still building. It's still something we need to do in addition to what might be happening in the classroom. So we offer robotics, computer programming, engineering, healthcare, veterinary, agriculture. We, again, try to vary the topics. We also have a lot of girls who come back again. They come in 4th grade, they love it. They come in 5th grade. So we want to keep the topics changing so they can get some new ones when they come back again the next year. Just have a few photos of some of the different activities. You can see here the outdoor gardening, electronics, chemical engineering. The Coast Guard presented a workshop, medicine, we've had different doctors of different backgrounds, computer programming and robotics. One of our many workshops, I forget which year this was from, just to show you some of the girls. And then part of this, as I mentioned, Weymouth, I've had the half-day conference going since 2014, but with the Envision the Future program that I did with Catherine in 2015, we had a few girls, like I said, attend that. And then Sarah Looney, who you'll see here on the top where it says STEM Conference for Girls, she, out of the 5 girls, got the most interested in it. And she really stayed involved from when she was, I think, in 5th or 6th grade in 2015. And this is a picture of her in her senior year, which was last year. She just graduated from Weymouth High School in 2022. And she did an AP course, and she also helped me to run the conference that year. But now she's at Harvard University studying science and biology and absolutely loves it. We wanted to try to have her come and speak, but she's so busy with activities at Harvard and her college career, her college courses right now, she wasn't able to attend, but we hope to get her back again and tell us how that's going. So I guess what I'm trying to say in all of this is just from this single STEM conference that I started in 2014, we think of all the girls that we've mentored and inspired with just the half-day conference. So here's my ask now for all of you. July 15th, we are having the conference in Taunton, very similar. I'll show you an outline of it very quickly. But what we'd like to have people do is to come and join us, observe the conference. It might sound overwhelming at first. Oh, how could it, we couldn't do this. You can, as I did it. And Chris and her crew in Taunton are just about ready to launch theirs. But we'd love to have other people come and observe it, see how it works, and find a way maybe to help us branch out and do it in other towns, or help us in Weymouth and Taunton to continue ours, because we hope to keep going. Again, we're always looking for new presenters, new ideas, new leaders, volunteers. So at the July 15th, we will have an orientation session for people that have never attended one of these and want to kind of find out before you get started for the day. You'll have the schedule. You can pick and choose which workshops you want to try to observe in if you have a particular interest, or you could visit all of them. And then we'll wrap it up at the end with a little follow-up workshop, an observer seminar, where I'll provide additional resources, as I did to Taunton when they reached out, if you have an interest in starting one in your area. But you don't have to start with a big conference either. You could do something maybe just as a 1-hour workshop at a library. I'm sure Pamela and Teeth would be happy to help you with Brockton. And I have connections here in Weymouth. I think Chris can tell you, she just went one day, I think, and met somebody from Girls Inc. and started talking to them, and the Taunton program kind of grew from that. To just sort of wrap up here, and I'm going to have my email and phone number there if anybody wants. As I said, my focus was really starting them young, so we really can just get the ideas in their mind, get them the skills that they need academically to go into some of these other careers that are there that they may not know about, where they can then become the leaders and help us and help themselves. Sorry, my mouth is very dry right now. All right, so I'm just going to try to stop sharing my screen. And then one other thing, if I can find it, not to take too much more time, but I wanted to show you about the Taunton. There we go. Is that still sharing? Yes, okay. So I just want to quickly show you this Taunton. They're doing a very similar conference to what Weymouth has done, but again, we encourage you to come and join us on July 15th. They're going to be hopefully having 50 girls in the Taunton area in grades 4 through 8, as you can see there. They'll have similar scheduling starting at 8,
Lynn,
with their
excuse me,
workshop
Lynn.
starting at 8:45.
Excuse me, Lynn,
Yeah.
you're not showing the STEM overview. Is that what you were going to show?
No, sorry, did I click on the wrong thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think you
Oh,
want to show
sorry.
the STEM overview, I think, for the Taunton program. If not, I have it up if you can't.
Okay.
I have it somewhere on my screen. If
Yeah,
you
no,
want
I
to.
thought I was sharing it, but let me stop sharing that and see if I can get it back the right way.
Okay. I heard you, I could tell what you were
There we go.
talking about, but
Is that it now?
yes, there you are. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so, yeah, so again, there's 50 girls that they're going to be recruiting from Girls Inc., Boys and Girls Club in the Taunton schools. And then they'll have a similar schedule there, starting around 8 with the workshops and then wrapping up at about 12:30. Sorry, now it's not scrolling. There we go. And as I said, we're hoping that if you can join us, that you could attend our orientation, then wander through and visit some of the workshops. And then at the end, I believe it'll be at 11:30, we'll be offering the STEM Path seminar for parents to learn more about how they can help their daughters get involved in STEM careers. And then at the same time, we'll have one for the observers to talk with you about possibly, hopefully having some sort of replication in your area. So, but I'm going to leave the rest to Chris, if you wanted to add anything else, but I just wanted to quickly share that. All right.
Thank you, Lynn. It's always confusing when there's more than one Christine.
Yeah, I know. I'm like Chris, Christine,
I know.
Courtney.
Yeah. Well, you are such a wonderful ambassador for STEM conferences, for your own and for the one in Taunton that we're working on. And you did inspire me. When I attended yours, I had STEM conference envy, and I wanted to let me get back to everybody, to say, why can't we do this in our area? And Lynn is right. Our goal today is to inspire you to replicate a similar experience for the girls in your area, whether it's offering a workshop, just one, or a conference. You can do it at a school, a library, community center. Engaging with others to work for the future of our girls helps us all, helps the branches, helps community groups, educators, and everyday people. It's not necessary to be a STEM professional to offer a STEM event. Those of you have heard me say that STEM was not in my vocabulary. I'm a former language teacher. Take me to an art museum, take me to a music concert. Don't take me to the Museum of Science, you know. But I've reformed. I'm a big booster of STEM, even though I don't necessarily practice it, but I do practice it in my daily life. We all do. But we don't call it STEM, but we have these skills. Look at us today. We're on a Zoom call. 3 years ago, who knew Zoom? And here we all are. So we're still learning, lifelong learners, and there's always something that can be used to enrich our lives, and we can use that and expand that for our girls that are coming up. So thank you, Lynn. You're so enthusiastic. I can tell that you spill this enthusiasm on your students and on the rest of us. Thank you so much. And Lynn is right that during, by a chance visit, I visited Girls Inc. in Taunton during STEM week, and that was where I connected with two people one from Bristol Community College, one from Massasoit. We had a little conversation, and here we are. We have plans. We're about to send out the applications to those to Taunton Public Schools, Girls Inc. and the Boys and Girls Club, and we're going to be on our way with our STEM conference. So, all right, let's see. And now we have Dawn McKenzie is our next speaker. I'm going to do the same, give you a little educational background about Dawn, and then we'll get started with her presentation. Dawn has a bachelor's degree in animal behavior from the State University of New York. She has a master's also in adult and extension education from West Virginia University. Dawn is the assistant director for operations and student experience at the MIT Sloan School of Management. She's on the board of directors at the New England Dressage Association, and she's on the board of directors for membership and database management with the North American Bujani Horse Registry. Dawn is going to focus on developing principled and innovative leaders. All right, Dawn.
Thank you so much. I also want to just point out that the other presentations have been so inspirational already, and I feel really honored to be asked to speak in this group, and I hope I can do it justice. But I did see some common themes. I'm excited to kind of point out. So I'm a STEM kid myself, as you'll see. I actually had a background due to, I think probably many people on this call can attribute, their background to their parents. My father was a very diversely talented man. He actively held careers as a professor, outback packing guide, a farrier, a police dog trainer, all simultaneously. He used his academic career to teach pieces of all these things to his students and to me. He was very educated. He had a master's in biology, a PhD in genetics and behavior. He tinkered in gunsmithing and falconry and whatever else he wanted to. It was just a never-ending list. And he was very inspirational. But as everyone I think on this call might guess, the real powerhouse behind the scenes, often with a man like this, was my mother. An incredible woman who had made a career of supporting his and her children. And my mother could have been anything she wanted to be. Truly, best human I've ever met. And yet there's no books to her name or notoriety in a field, despite deserving it. And I think that both of those perspectives largely formed who I grew up to be. So behavior and biology was just part of everyday life. Back in the early 80s, horse behavior wasn't really like the marketable fad that it is in that industry today. It was a fairly unique skill, and it put me at an advantage quite young, as you can see, translating body language basically just in my bone marrow. And, as you manage animals, that's incredibly biology, very STEM based, a lot of background there without even realizing it. And I grew up my father's assistant trainer. I trained police dogs, rode a multitude of disciplines in the equine sports world. I did racehorses, eventers, jumpers, dressage. Again, my mother, being a genius, found me a number of educational loopholes where my lifestyle did not fit the traditional forms of education. And through college classes that also counted as a GED, ended up at the age of 17 down in Palm Beach County, managing, an international show barn, all because of, their influence and support and often running. And you're going to see how this comes back to a weird little career path. So there's no health insurance in running around with ponies and dogs all day. There is now. It's a little better. You can do this, but it couldn't be a main career. All the injuries that come, or health insurance is really important. So I moved into a decade-long career in the medical industry, and this was really STEM-based as well. So all of these things kind of transitioned across nicely. It's just equine management, do it to humans. And a prominent female business leader in my hometown demanded to know why I didn't have a degree yet. Right. Just kind of running around, wasting my life, really strong personality, super outspoken woman, not a formal mentorship relationship there, but man, that one conversation, bellowed across the pharmacy I was managing at the time. It really kicked my butt into gear. Ladies, that might just be all you need for the young woman in your hometown to go change the world. So if I was teaching labs for my father at the state university, surely I could get a degree there, right? So off to academia. Majored in the animal science with the concentration in equine, which was the behavior concentration. And I finished my 4-year degree in 2 years because I was just mind hungry and could not imagine being done at that point. So off went all my applications, and I wanted an environment that was wildly different. I traveled a lot with my father, training, and wanted to go somewhere I'd never been. And off to West Virginia University I went. Which is where I met the AAUW. I had a very strong chapter presence there. This was the 2014 to 2017 era, so politically rather active, and all of a sudden I found myself alone and in need of a support network where I hadn't really appreciated the support network that I had before. You're just kind of adrift, and where are the people like me? The AAUW definitely filled that niche, and I've never forgotten that. And I've kept their teachings and learnings moving forward, as I'm sure you'll see. It was a very different experience. So I was able to study educational opportunities as perceived across the United States by dressage riders. And then I moved on into the PhD programming, looking to study ways that urban agriculture and urban sustainability initiatives support each other, either consciously or subconsciously in residents' mind. So very complicated way of saying, if you see your neighbor recycling, does it make you think about taking transit more? How do these things kind of support each other? And I simply needed a way while I was here in Boston studying that to pay the bills. I managed to find, weirdly enough, a job supporting a dean at the MIT Sloan School of Management, the same institute that produced the founders of the AAUW. And I, again, really was supported by a network that I was lucky to stumble into. At first, I directly supported Dr. Nelson Repenning, who is the Dean of Leadership and Special Projects, which meant that other than leadership, we were a catch-all for all kinds of weird stuff, and we really clicked. He taught organizational psychology and process improvement, still does. And I never tired of waiting for the spot in class where he paused and I could pounce and tell them how that's actually animal behavior. You're not that special. So it's, very translatable skills. The STEM really comes across to, business. It is all applicable. And I cannot, I was really, really delighted to see how STEM's emphasized in this particular meeting, because it's so important for careers of anyone. Even if you don't know where you're going, you need STEM. Let's see, I think I've found my home here at the MIT Sloan School, mainly due to the mission, which supports the meat of what we're going to get to here. Written on the wall, we're very serious here about our mission to graduate principled, innovative leaders that improve the world. We talk about it daily. And as my father would say, but what does that mean? What does that mean? And I would say, it says, Dad, graduated principled, innovative leaders. And I think that, that's a really ambitious mission statement to have on the wall and expect them to make the world better. But I will point out that the AAUW's mission, if you look on their website, what's the first sentence that pops up? We are tenacious and trailblazing, advocating for women and girls since 1881 and into the future. It's a mesh. You can't wait around for things when it's time to move them. So I'm in the executive degree program office, which has a program that Nelson helped to create, and the team is wonderful. I'll get to that in a minute, but we have two distinct programs here. We have executive students, so all of them are required to have had at least 10 years of managerial experience before they can even apply. They are often leaders in industry. We have had the head of Amazon's AI department in our student body. We have the head of neuro at Johns Hopkins. They're just a very, very, very wide, diverse pool of applicants that are very impressive human beings. And there's a lot of kind of imposter syndrome that sometimes will seep into your bones. How could I tell them what to do as if I know better? The two programs do have pretty large international pieces. I'm just kind of showing you the makeup of the student body here. So the URM, I called out the fact that it's a federal definition. URM stands for underrepresented minorities. The federal definition, however, does not include anyone of Asian descent. So there's that's kind of a caveat, because sometimes, context matters. All of this matters. We are working really hard to get our women's enrollments numbers up. It's hard to be at that age, at that point in your career, at that point in your family, and be able to take on an MIT MBA program. It's a lot, and it's hard to find, and the support networks, I think, are just not quite there yet to get. I want 60%. I don't want to celebrate 40%. I want more. So it's a never-ending churn here to always make things better, and I love it. It's great for the mind hungry. There are already advanced degrees in our program, so it's great to have the MDs and the PhDs already in the room. It's very rich. However, we have a really, really wide, we have a bit of difference between the two. So the Sloan Fellows actually have the closest interaction with the AAUW right now. It is a program that's almost 100 years old. It is a cohort of 115 students that come here annually. So they quit their job, they take their families, and they move to Cambridge for a full year, and they are integrated into the MIT Sloan community. They can take classes across MIT eventually, once they get to a certain point. and they are here all the time. We have programming for their significant others. We see their kids. They are really here. They're one of us. It's just a year. We were just talking today how it's absolutely crazy. It's almost over for them, this cohort. And then the modules that I in particularly get to run are an ethical leadership week in New York City, where I book a number of speakers, and a global leadership module in DC in March, where I book another number of speakers, one of which I'm lucky enough to have Dr. Gloria Blackwell, who's the CEO of the AAUW, speak to some of these students, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Our EMBA, Executive MBA program, is only 12 years old. So there's a lot of iteration here. There's a lot of stuff that I can move around and improve and work on. We have a cohort of about 126. You'll see there's an overlap, right? One of these is 20 months, one is a year. They overlap. So as of right now, we are onboarding students. We have not yet graduated other students. We have 2 cohorts going in the other. I've got a team of 19 people, and we have 500 students at once right now. So we are going full barrels. So we're not bored. They do a lot of travel in this program. They're not here as much, so it's harder a bit to build those relationships. But we do have our Leading with Impact module, which I think you'll see in a moment also is pretty inspirational and works hard to help with these equity and leadership opportunities. So I'm going to talk specifically about these 2 pieces of these 2 programs for these rather different cohorts. So Leading with Impact is our first glance. It is the capstone module where we connect our students with local nonprofits, and oftentimes these are nonprofits here in Boston that are hustling to address inequities of some kind. That is usually the reason for a nonprofit. There's a gap that needs to be filled, and they are there to do it. So this is just a handful of organizations. We've run this program for 9 years now at a rate of over 20 organizations each year. The list is long. This was just kind of a highlight. I'm sure that people on this call are familiar with some of these organizations that we work with. So I love seeing this list grow. The students, we put them into teams of, it's a capstone. They don't get to graduate. It launches next month, and they got to do this to get out the door. So I really love that part of it too. We put teams of 5 to 7 of these executive leaders together. We work very, very hard with the nonprofits to help them identify a business need, a problem, to really file it down to a problem statement, to engage all their stakeholders and get buy-in, and then, kind of manage a bit of our students' setup with these organizations. We connect them, we give them the problem statements, we send them in as volunteers first to get their hands dirty. They are not consultants. They wear their sneakers, you wear a t-shirt, you're going to get filthy, go volunteer, see what the actual work is, meet who the clients are, who are you serving, whose lives are you bettering, then go. So it's only a 5-day. We work them a lot of hours a day. It's a real pressure cooker. And I've seen some incredible impact. The nonprofits come back to us and say, that they see social impact, so which is different than, economic or measurable. The projects are always fairly solid, I think. I'm letting everyone graduate, so I sure hope so. So the social impact is something where you notice a difference that's measured in the neighborhood that you're serving. So for example, we work with More Than Words, which is a great youth development organization down in South Boston. If you haven't heard of them, you should really check them out. They're incredible. I get goosebumps every time I walk in there. They can measure their success by kids whose lives are better. They have either GEDs now, or they have visas to be here. They're working on their citizenship status. They're getting applications to colleges done, things like that. Just really, really impactful things. And I'm seeing my students returning on boards. I'm going to reconnect with nonprofits, and now my alumni are on the boards of these organizations, or they are there in their t-shirts on volunteer day, happy to greet, the new students to come in and really help get their hands dirty. They stay engaged, and some of the statements that come out of that room are really incredible. The Sloan Fellows, the resident programs that I take into, DC, focusing specifically on the visit to the AAUW. I'll just remind everyone that this is a huge international population. So these are students that come in, oftentimes the men are coming from more traditional cultures. The language when they first get here is a bit abrasive for some of our women students who are incredible. So there is a lot of work here and a lot of cohort building, a lot of community building to become the supportive group of students who can come to DC in March and discuss at the AAUW all of these kinds of things. So we have an international cohort in the room, only 12 to 20 students. I book a lot of speakers against each other, so you've got to want to be in the room to be there. And I love that we are seeing equal men and women going to the AAUW, looking for ways to improve women's opportunities. They are talking about young women. They are talking about returning women to the workforce. They are talking about how to address cultural norms in unsupportive communities. They are really having difficult conversations and learning that the AAUW has internationally available resources to help them with these things. And it's wonderful. I know we are tight on time, so I had included in here, and I can send everyone the slide deck. We just have our reflection pieces where you can see kind of reflected in the students' comments what they say about equity and what they're working on and grappling with in those regards in the program. But I wanted to include here the quotes from the students specific to the AAUW session feedback. So just a lot about how we had in 2020. I'm losing track of the years now. In 2022, we actually had 3 cohorts attend together because the pandemic had limited their accessibility to travel prior to that. So we had a student who graduated in 2020 just saying how, they're noticing the world has shifted already and the conversations are better and things are getting better. They're looking forward to having the strategic resources and just really loving the fact that they can have these conversations at all. I just have a little picture in here of some of the students. So this, was related to the module at large, but as well as the AAUW visit. So wanting to know, could we do workshops in the future? And how wonderful that the AAUW has some of those workshops available. You can do wage negotiation, you can, leverage all of those opportunities and just really be able to have an answer for questions like that. And I love that Gloria is part of a growing roster of female speakers. I'll say again, kind of to emphasize what Lynn was saying earlier and our other speakers touched on, it's important to get women in front of not just women, but other men too, to normalize that there's speakers out there that you need to be listening to. And I kind of, to come full circle with the mentorship piece, this is my boss, Johanna Hissing DeFabio, who gives me full purview to do whatever I can and run any experiment I want in bettering the world. And I could not be who I am without her. It's just the impact you can have by seeing the light and passion in another woman and supporting it and letting it boom is just really incredible. And this is another one of our female leadership instructors, the professor who actually authored the purple book there. And I'll say that, this is never ending work. I want to say last week, I kind of glanced to the side at the pile of books that were building at the side of my desk and went, oh, why is there one female author in that stack? And I started kicking around office doors and looking in and taking notes so next year, we are going to be circulating some stats to the professors on how many people of color and how many women authors we are circulating, and just let them see the numbers. And I can't control, faculty or write their syllabus for them. I sure wish I could, but we are going to provide them the numbers and trust that at this institution that is so dedicated to making the world better, that they're going to make the right decision. And we're going to see more of these books. But I will say these 4 are just absolutely incredible. And I buy copies of them and leave them places all the time. So just small things that you do to try to help. And I hope that resonated with some of you. And I'm again really thankful to try to be the piece that brings all this together. Thrilled to be here. So thank you very much for your time.
That was fantastic, Dawn. I loved how you brought AUW in and how wonderful that AUW helped you find your voice and your place with the support at West Virginia University. We sometimes take our AUW for granted and don't understand that what a wonderful organization it is. And this is just reinforces everything. I am just so impressed. I don't know what to say. I know when Catherine and I talked to you earlier, as we were talking about this, we were impressed, and I think we still are. And I think all our attendees are as well. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, the international aspect, changing culture, all of that. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it makes me happy to hear, especially about the support that AUW is giving to your students and has given to you and to others. Well, there just isn't enough time for everything, is there? And there's so much that we could ask, and we are going to ask one question of everybody because we're over time already quite a bit. So I want to say thank you to everybody, to all our presenters. I think I can speak for all our attendees when I say that I'm impressed. We are impressed and moved by the amount of talent, commitment, and passion you've shared this afternoon. You've all shared this afternoon, whether it's talking about 4th graders through 8th graders, phenomenal women, the women of South Coast and the girls, the Jelly Girls, and the people at MIT, men and women both. It's been wonderful. Thank you all so much. And I think we can have maybe one question. Beryl, do you want to choose a question? Are you there?
Sure, I can choose a question. Pre-prepared questions. So, but firstly, I just have to say, firstly, I'm overwhelmed with just the powerful presentations we've had today, and inspiring and exciting, and just making me want to get up and do things, because the 4 of you are the role models and the inspiration for us and all the women, young girls everywhere. I think one of you said, and I'm going to misquote, but this is how it feels to me: if you can see her, you can be her. Mm-hmm. I know that wasn't exactly what you said, but it's basically, we need to see our leaders, our women leaders, and we need and be inspired by them so that we can be them. And I'm speaking as a young woman of 71 years old. And because I'm excited about the July 15 event that the Taunton AUW is hosting. And oh no, I think my video. Sorry about that, my video just messed up. Lynn spoke very briefly about what's going to happen. Can you hear me? Hopefully, what's going to happen in July, and we're excited about that. We hope many of you will join us and come and sort of see firsthand how to sort of pull together a STEM morning. It's really just a few hours. And once you have a few groups of people, for example, Girls Inc. and Boys and Girls Club, those folks can do some of the hard work. They get the girls, they bring them, they encourage young people to come and join and register for so it really does make it easy when you connect with other organizations to help. So it doesn't feel so like everything is just on one branch or on one couple of people. Anyway, let me start with a question for Christine, because it's been a while since Christine spoke, but we want to know more about that Jelly program. I like the name Jelly. It stands for Girls Empowerment and Leadership Initiative. And you had a program in Worcester. We would like to know, why would you suggest to attendees to offer similar programs and or become involved with the Jelly initiative? So Christine.
Sure, thank you. So the Girls Empowerment and Leadership Initiative event that we had just a couple of weeks ago was hosted at Girls Inc. in Worcester. And there were just about 100 young women all across the state who came together in support of this one-day conference. And I think some of the highlights from that conference was that it was girls from different regions, from different communities in Massachusetts, getting to meet each other and talk about the work that they're doing in their schools. We hear there's some young women who sit on Mayor's Youth Council. There's some who are student president. There are some who even sit on local nonprofit boards. So they have a youth seat. There are some who are just stepping into their leadership shoes and their leadership journey and came here in search of wanting to learn more. Maybe it was a mentor from their school or their family who said, I think you could benefit from going to something like this. And some of the young women at this program, I mean, they're asking questions like, how do I balance a checkbook? How do I save for my future? What are they, like 14, 15, 16 years old? And there was a robust discussion about, so how do you run for office? And like thinking about how they plan to do that as soon as they can, as soon as they're old enough. And I would say, I mean, we're hoping to do this again next year. We're hoping to grow our jelly program at the state level. We're hoping to see more youth and girls councils sit in our regional commissions. We have 11 regional commissions across the state, and we're seeing that, and we're just hoping to grow. And I think it would be wonderful if every city, if every community, if every region had their own regional jelly initiative. So I would suggest reaching out to your regional commission on the status of women to learn how young women can get involved. Reach out to me at the state level to see how we can get involved. And wouldn't it be amazing if we could amplify this even further and further so more young women can step into their leadership's shoes and then learn how to advocate, learn how to talk to your legislators, learn how to think about what are the policy implications of what's going on here at home. So those would be a couple of my suggestions about what the initiative is and how you can get involved and amplify the work that we're doing.
Oh, thank you, Christine. I bet a lot of us will be reaching out to you and others at the Mass Commission on the Status of Women. Great suggestions, great ideas, and it's exciting that young people are looking to, they want to run for office. How do I do that? That's wonderful. The next question is for Courtney. I know we have short on time, I think Chris said, so I'm gonna do this quick. You had a phenomenal women event, and the attendees, of course, were struck by the vocal and emotional support of your sorority and others for the women being honored. This was the event in Brockton. Could you speak to the role of sororities in fostering leadership, in particular the sorority to which you belong?
Absolutely, and apologies, I have my camera off because I am on my way to my next event. But yes, so I'm a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. It was founded in 1922 by 7 Black educators at in Butler University, which is in Indiana. We are a part of a Divine Nine Council, so there are 9 overall Black fraternities and sororities, and they have a historical impact in the Black community of instilling the importance of education in the Black community. And we also really focus on elevating and uplifting minority leaders. And we particularly do that by holding youth symposiums every year for children from the grades 5th all the way up to high school seniors. So that I would like to say that that's one of the main points and importance of my sorority. And one thing that I really love about my chapter is that we support one another in everything that we do. So that's why you all probably saw some of my sorority sisters supporting me in that space.
Oh, thank you so much, Courtney. And I'm sorry you're going to have to run, but we were so happy to have you here with us. And thank you for that information. And a quick question for Dawn. I know I was excited that you've gone to AAUW National to meet with and then you got to meet with the CEO, Gloria Blackwell there. Seems like you had a really great, wonderful experience with the students that you took. Could you talk to us why that visit was so important for the MBA students?
Sure. I think it's a bit of level setting for the group. So if there's a group that's passionately interested, and we usually do have a pretty strong piece of the cohort that's passionately interested in supporting women's advancement just because of the internationality and the differences that are surfaced through communications that we facilitate through the cohort. They're just fascinated by the fact that, either the men around them oftentimes weren't as supportive simply because they had no idea of the difficulties that, we don't think we have to call out these very obvious things, and they genuinely have no clue. And also that, now they're in leadership positions where they can talk to someone like Dr. Blackwell and say, oh, we can modify the structure of our organization's benefits, or the way the working hours are, or the expectations placed in certain hours of the day, to better support women who are caregiving either for young or old, at home, and to better model verbally for their organization that we are doing these things in our organization to make it better for our female coworkers. However, we don't expect every family to expect their women to participate in these activities. So wonderful that there are a lot of men out there doing that as well. Just kind of the messaging and to hear from Dr. Blackwell that, her perspective and policy across the United States, and then to be able to surface in the room, that they do want to get involved in politics because their nations do not have the same support system that we do, or perhaps we do have some students who come in and go are blown away by how much further behind we are than their country. So it's always an incredible, fascinating information exchange, and I hope she gets as much out of it as they do. But I always come back and I think of our participants who, for example, our student from Kazakhstan who's asking, how can I better educate STEM when there aren't roads to these towns? How do I get these materials to my students when they're largely isolated in the mountain, in these inaccessible regions, and, learning that there's a little bit of help there to distribute materials online or to get better connectivity and help with, kind of building resources there is always really helpful for them to not feel so alone.
I think it's an excellent program, and thank you for sharing that. And of course, it makes me proud that AAUW is part of what you involved in the work that you do at MIT Sloan Institute. So this is fantastic. I also love the work that you do with the nonprofits. We don't have enough time to explore that, so thank you. I want to ask Lynn just to highlight again. We know that you have some really practical ideas of how to set up a STEM workshop, a STEM program. Could you just speak a little bit more about how we can prevent the drop in STEM confidence? Again, as you mentioned, kids, our girls, a certain age, they start losing interest in some of these programs. How do we, what can we do to prevent the drop in that?
Well, there's many things we could do. I think just if you have any children of your own or grandchildren, look for summer camps, read books. There's great books out there now for STEM activities, do things at home. Just anytime you see opportunities, I think, at the library, just encourage them to attend those different programs. That's something that I'll be sharing for the observers that come on July 15th is some just hands-on activities you can do with, young children. I think sometimes, again, they don't understand. I remember I didn't, at least when I was, 18, what is an engineer? What does that mean? Even today, people, even though we talk a lot about more, the more we talk about it and share, again, books, movies, activities, just, it's the day-to-day things we do, and just so they understand, chemical engineering, they make powder, toothpaste, things like that, everyday things that you don't even think about. I think just taking apart the mystery behind what is STEM and what does that mean? Thinking of the experience that Dawn had when she was younger, she didn't really realize she was doing STEM with the horses and things like that. But I think, just too, when you start to see them middle school age, they start to get involved in other things. We all know, social things, but just to try to keep them involved in the STEM even at that point, because that's when I think we can get them young, they get excited in elementary school, then they get to middle school and start to kind of lose it. So don't lose them there in middle school. It's because we want them to be ready in high school to jump into some of those classes. Because that's where I think we lose them the most, so start them young, but make sure we catch them in the middle school, and then, encourage it in high school. So they'll go off to college and careers that will have these, careers, interest is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, they'll be interested in the science, technology, engineering, math. So often girls say they want to be in careers that help people, but that can be in so many different things. It can be government, helping with policy in the environment, and things like that. There's just so many different ways, but I think they just think of it as it's the medical field, it's nursing, or it's education, teaching. But that's where, just again, the more we can just share with them different careers. And that's where all of you can help, because again, you might not even think of yourself as a STEM person, but you probably use it and don't even think about it, or people. Some of the people that have been referred to me for workshops was somebody's pediatrician, somebody's eye doctor, things like that. So, just find activities, find ideas, and, just keep the girls interested in realizing they can do it.
Thank
They
you.
need to do it.
Yes, and you are a tireless advocate for that. Thank you for all you do. Chris, all yours.
Oh, thank you, Beryl. Wonderful opportunity to touch again with everybody. I have to give a big thank you to our presenters, to Beryl for handling the questions and everything, for our collaborators, our attendees, for two AAUW-MA and branch members. I want to also take the opportunity to make special mention of Catherine Honey, my co-president, as we complete our final program effort for AAUW-MA. Thank you, Catherine. And thank you all. We have our, I'm going to stop recording in a second. We have our business meeting. We've run over a bit, but we're going to do the best we can to do that efficiently. Everyone is welcome to attend. Our meetings are open to the public, but I understand if you have to go. And again, thank you. Thank you is two little words, but there's a lot behind them. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to stop this recording, and then when we do our business meeting, we'll reconvene.